All right, guys. Been messing around with the different way to Z Hinge the airplanes. It's going to make things a little bit easier for you. Right in front of me, I have a Crossover 40 as my night flyer. So basically, I got the aircraft lit up. I'll kind of give you an idea what it looks like, even though we're talking about hinging here. I'm going to have areas on the ends of the wings for clear winglets that's going to have LEDs in them, but I'm going to backfeed the power through this way so you can kind of see what I got going on here. We do a lot of night flying, and having a plane like this that's powered in an extreme fashion, that's such an agile plane, is perfect for us at night. So you can see where I have 3 lights cut in the leading edge. We got our power coming through. LEDs are cut into a slot that sits the LED on its side. So I'm lighting the complete perimeter of the aircraft. So basically I got LEDs coming in here, the strip LEDs, it's kind of cut around, comes out, taps in for some power off to the tip, and then I jump through and put a little bit of a exposed LED on the leading edge, and then I do either double 5 mil or a layer of 10 mil. So I got a couple of blinking LEDs. These vertical stabilizers are the hardcore ones. They're going to be stuck on there, and the lights themselves are going to be stuck into the stabilizers to where the stabilizers are clear, and that blinkiness, you're going to see the light blink into the actual clear chloroplast stabilizers for a night flyer. So it makes it pretty kick-ass. So one other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the motor mounts. I know everybody's always talking about how they put the motor mounts in. The main goal on the flat plate motor mount, depending on what model it is, I have a break-off tab that goes on the very back of it. So the trick to this is you do not want this motor mount hanging off the back of that airplane, okay? You want it back up to the back end of the slot. You want as much aluminum as possible, and you can see sandwiched in between the spars. You can see where I sandwiched the one in there, and basically the back of the mount is at the back of that area right there. So what the different planes, no matter what plane you have, you're going to want the back end of this aluminum mount and as much as you can possibly get stuck between the spars. You don't want the motor mount going way into the bay. So if it's going way into the bay, you can snap off the front. You also don't want it hanging way off the back. There's no reason to have it hanging way off the back and then the break-off tabs or the weak point hanging way off the back. You want it fitting flush, just like this one is fitting right here. All of the different planes are like that. So no hanging off the back. You want the back of the motor mount flush to the back of the actual bulkhead, and then as much motor mount aluminum in between the spars, because that's the weakest part of your plane. So you're going to want to put this all down with CA, and this motor mount's going to go in last, and you're going to goop it in and weight it down. So no hanging motor mounts off the back, no motor mounts into the bays. And this area here, you don't want the motor mount sitting in that area there like this, with this exposed in that area, because you want to be able to adjust the motor forward. If you put it in like this, you can't adjust the motor forward. You got a very weak aluminum plate hanging off the back of the plane, and then in between the spars, you don't have your aluminum motor mount in between the spars, but you got a hole hacked in there to slide it in partially. And then what happens is, since that motor mount is not glued in there, this whole area is a weak spot. So put your motor mount all the way in between the spars, and having as much motor mount in between the foam as you could possibly have in there. So, okay, let's talk about hinging. People are always having a hard time with the Z hinging. Double stick 3M permanent double stick type tape. It's kind of like a regular type of tape, except both sides are sticky. So before, when we were doing our hinging, we were sticking 2 pieces of tape together, sticky side together, and then sliding them into the actual hinge. What I've done is I got some 3M storage here, and what we do with the 3M storage tape is I cut a piece of it, and I basically cut about a 1-inch piece, and we'll put that down in a couple places. I've already hinged this hinge here. I've already hinged it, so we're going to go ahead and do another hinge. Also, all of your elevons, you want them to fit exactly in the slipstream of the airfoil. I rolled the bottom edge a little bit so the airfoil, so the actual airfoil and the elevon are completing themselves. You do not want your elevon hanging underneath your airfoil. You want your elevon hinged and being a complete, completion of the airfoil. So if you have to round this edge, it gives you a little more articulation capabilities. You need to roll the bottom edge a little bit. And basically what I did with that is just sanded that edge round a little bit and took the sharp edge of the bottom of the elevon off. And now we're going to hinge it to the top of the airfoil. So now I got 2 pieces of tape here, and the tape itself, I'm going to come in about 2 inches, maybe a little more, and I'm going to stick that piece of tape on there. And you can see the airfoil is matched up to the top of the elevon, and the elevon is matched up to the top of the airfoil. And the same with right here. I'm going to go ahead and put that on the top. So now we have it lightly hinged on there. Now you take the double sticky back tape, pull yourself off about 1 inch of it. Okay? Take that double sticky back tape and slide it directly into the joint. You might have to get a close-up on this, George. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this tape and I'm going to slide it right into that joint. So you can see, and I'm not going to tape it on the bottom yet. I'm just flipping it over and I got it stuck on the top, but on the bottom I have it just hanging loose right now. So it's just sticking right there. So what it's going to do is it's going to stick on the top of the airfoil, it's going to go underneath this joint, and then it's going to stick onto the elevon. So you're basically top of the airfoil stuck over and then onto the elevon bottom. So right now I'm just getting these pieces of tape in place. I'm hanging it off the edge of the plane, and now I'm going to do another piece of this tape again the exact opposite way. I'm going to stick it onto the elevon, slide it back into that joint, except I'm going to stick it onto the elevon, get it up nice and close. Now you can see I have it stuck onto elevon, and now it's coming back over and on. It's going to go to the bottom of the plane. So what I'm going to end up doing is snugging these down to that sharp edge, but not yet. I'm going to go ahead and get a third piece put in there. So I'm being gentle with this and hanging it off the edge of the table while I get all 3 of these pieces in there, and then I'm going to meticulously snug those down so they're nice and tight. And we get that sharp edge of the foam tied in with the sharp edge of the elevon, so we have a no slop hinge. And then we're going to end up capping it with that storage tape. So now I'm going to go ahead and go back on top of the wing and then go onto the elevon. So now I got, you can do 2, I mean you can do 3 or 4 of these on here depending on how you feel. Okay, now you can see in that hinge, I have one going on to the elevon and onto the wing. One's on the wing, one's on the elevon, and then I'm going to pull those down nice and tight and lock those bad boys in there. So I got one on the elevon that goes onto the bottom of the elevon, up and over and onto the top of the wing. And then I got one that goes onto the top of the wing, on the top of the wing, up and over and onto the elevon, and then vice versa. You could even add one more in there if you want 2 and 2. And now you basically have a hinge that is super, super tight and super, super true that goes on there. And what you'll end up doing is we'll end up capping the top of that with hinge tape all the way across. So I'm going to go through on this one here and do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and slide a piece of tape in the hinge. So we're going to slide it down and into that hinge. And then I got it taped onto the top of the wing. And then I'm holding this nice and straight and true right here. And I can stick it on the bottom of the elevon. If you stick this nice and tight at first, it's a little bit more of a wrestle to get the hinge tape down inside there. But the double stick tape works great. You don't have to mess with doing all the hinging and stuff. Like, I'm sorry, all the taping back, you know, like you're taping one piece of tape to the other piece of tape like we show in the other video. And then on here again, now I'm going to go onto the elevon, and then I'm going to go and pull that elevon down nice and tight, really nice and tight down onto that trailing edge. So now I got 2 Z hinges in there, and then I'm going to finish it off with the 3rd Z hinge. And then this one here, again, I have the first one onto the wing, goes under the elevon. I got the second one on the elevon, goes under the wing. Now this one here, I'm gonna go onto the actual foam wing, and then again, back onto the elevon. It's a little bit of a wrestle with the plane. Just gotta take your time and work it kind of in there like you're flossing your teeth. And now I'm going onto the wing. Again, I can feel when I'm sliding in when it butts up to the other piece of tape. Now I got it onto the wing. Making sure I can feel the gap where the hinge is tight. Boom. And then you got a really awesome hinge. And then you can see where I did it on the other one. I got one on top of the wing, one that comes underneath onto the actual elevon. Then I got one that comes onto the elevon, it comes back over and goes under the wing, and then again, one on top of the wing, one under the elevon. And what I did after I did that, after that was all said and done, I went through and I put a small piece of packing tape right on that in each place on the bottom in that hinge joint there. And then I went through and put a long piece of this all the way across. So the sticky parts, since that's double backing tape, to cover the sticky parts that's left exposed, plus to finish the hinge, I put one more layer across the top. And then in the back of the root here, I will go ahead and lay one more full strip of this all the way across the very bottom of this. Now look at your hinge. Look at how true your hinge is right there. It's amazing. It's super tight. You got a completion of the airfoil. It works really good. You can do the Z hinge the other way, but it takes a lot more time. And I found that this double stick tape, I've been using it for a little bit, works really well with this. And then you'll find that your hinge might be a little bit uptight because you got the packing tape in the joint. So after it's all said and done, you can run the hot iron over the top of that packing tape and then through the back side of the packing tape. And you can relax that tape a little bit in the joint and flex it back and forth, and it's going to give you nicer articulation up and down with your servo. It'll basically loosen it up just a little bit, so now you have a really nice but not super stiff hinge for your aircraft to fly on. And now what I'll do is on this one is I'll go through and I'll go ahead and put a full piece of tape on the top, and then I'll go ahead and put, you know, the small piece here, and then I'll go through and put the rest of the tape on that and be done with it. So that's a simple, easy way to do the Z hinges using, what is it said, 3M double-sided permanent tape. It works really good. You can get it a little bit wider, a little bit thinner. If you're doing a larger airplane, a lot of times I'll do, you know, 2 one way, 2 the other way, 2 one way, 2 the other way in the middle, and 2 one way and 2 the other way. But on the smaller planes, 2 one way and 1 in the middle going the other way is just fine. And doing it and backing it with this other storage tape, which I use all the time. It's the 3M long-lasting storage tape. It has a UV inhibitor in it. We don't use any fiber tapes for any of this, so this stuff works really good. So quick Z hinge video.